Welcome to the Great Distraction.
Hello again, everyone. This is The Great Distraction, and today the topic of discussion is obesity in the U.S.
It's everywhere, man.
It is. My name is Ben, and with me today are my co-hosts Thomas,
Hey.
Rick,
Hey, buddy.
and Glenn.
Howdy.
If this is your first time listening, welcome. We thank you for joining us. The Great Distraction is a podcast that focuses on a vast and random range of topics, and we hope that each episode leaves you with, if nothing else, something to ponder. Obesity in America. Right off the bat, let me start by saying I do not, I think all of us, I speak for all of us here, when we do not want to make anyone feel bad about this topic, and I know everybody in the U.S. feels like they're too overweight, whatever. It's something that's constantly jammed down our throats. But nevertheless, I thought it was a topic worth discussing. I actually, as I was doing the episode, if you had heard our other episode on cosmetic surgery, I was looking up a whole bunch of statistics on cosmetic surgery, and one of the things I ran across was I thought it was very impressive. I like stats and I like a lot of collected information like that and find it very interesting to see just out of curiosity, some statistics can be manipulated any which way that there or the other. But nevertheless, sometimes if you're given raw data to look at it, you can make your own assumptions and your own base your own ideas off of what you read. And CDC put together this awesome website that just seems to be specifically for displaying all of the stats that they had based on data that they've collected. And among many other things, and they've got like random stuff like how many sugar drinks are consumed by adolescent kids K through or K through 12 children. They've got one that has like breastfeeding statistics. I mean, it's crazy stuff that they've got on there. Anyway, if you go to cdc.gov/obesity, you can see the stats that I'm getting, that I ran into, and that I got a lot of the information from for this episode, and that they have there on that section of the website. And it's really cool stuff, man, based on demographics, so geographically, age, gender, race, all kinds of stuff. The next thing is, I want to start off by saying, too, is that obese, as defined by CDC, is an individual with a BMI greater than 30. And they are using from research I've done years ago on this kind of stuff, they calculate the BMI based on height, weight, and age, which is arguably not really the best way to do that. If I remember correctly, when I was looking at it, there's either an electronic way of doing it where they put a charge. It doesn't hurt, but they put a charge on your toes and then a separate secondary charge on your fingertips, and they can measure the resistance or something like that through your body of this current that they pass through you, and then from that they can determine how much body fat you have or whatever. There's that way, and then there's another way that's supposedly more accurate too, is the dunk tank method, where they actually put you in a tank of water and measure water displacement, or you're floating a bit, something like that. I can't remember now. It's been a long time since I went to a gym and had any of that stuff done, but many years ago I played with having a personal trainer, and they did those things to me to try and establish a baseline, so that you can figure out what your BMI is, and as you continue, working out every few months or whatever, they'd retest you, and you could see if you were actually, losing weight or just gaining muscle mass, or what was actually going on in your body as far as your fat goes. Anyway, so I pulled a lot of statistics on this stuff that I thought was kind of cool, or at least fed the point of the topic. And first one here, obesity is actually on a steady increase, at least over the last 8 years. It's not a huge increase, but it is on an increase, increasing from 27% of the U.S. Being obese, as by the CDC defined term obese, BMI greater than 30, to 30%, and that's since 2011. So not that old of a stat there. Another interesting thing that you could see from the demographics that are shown on the graphs and the charts that the CDC posted is obesity actually seems to increase going from the west to the east coast in the U.S. Starting at the North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas line. It's not really dead in the middle of the U.S., but there's like the way those states line up. If you look at the map of the U.S., there's like a definite line right there with those states. To the left of that, it averages about 20 to 35%. I'm sorry, 25 to 30%. On the right of that, it goes from 30 to 35 and above, and it just seems to be a solid cutoff line. And interestingly enough, Hawaii and Colorado have the lowest levels of obesity in the U.S. I couldn't really figure out why that was. Colorado looks like it's almost in the middle of it's not directly in the middle of the U.S., but it's kind of in the middle there. And Hawaii, I would imagine everything's expensive to get there. So I don't know, they get less junk food and high sugared food. I don't know. It's got to be.
That's not necessarily true. There's a lot of like sugary drinks and foods and stuff like that, and a lot of fried foods. And I don't know if I wouldn't call it traditional Hawaiian diet. And from what I understand, Colorado has a lot of recreational activities, and that's a big draw for people to move there. Like if you look up like places where people live that are the happiest, Colorado pops up on most of your searches for things like that.
Yeah, anybody who's like super active or climbers, bicyclists, things like that. I know tons of people who have moved to Colorado over the years, even if it was just for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's like California of outdoor stuff.
It really is.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, well, there you go. Apparently, that actually shows that.
But geographically, I mean, I've lived in several other places in the United States, and you can definitely tell, by the weather and by the terrain, a lot of times where somebody's going to be larger, more obese. You go to a lot of places like the Bible Belt and down south, there's no hills, there's not much to do, it's flat land. You're just kind of like, there's not really much to do or going on.
So you just eat.
You just eat. I mean, you're kind of just hanging out. Where if you live somewhere where you have to do things, or it's a little harder to survive, or like Colorado where everybody wants to go out and do things. I mean, obviously it's a different type of mentality.
Or where the climate's also more temperament.
Well, that was the other part I was trying to get into. Yeah.
As well, yeah.
When you're cold and freezing and sitting in a house for 6 months a year,
you're not working out.
Yeah, like in Minnesota. I mean, you're going to eat. I mean, you spend so much time indoors. When I lived in the Midwest, that's the way it was. It was wintertime, 6 months a year. A lot of people I knew just hung out in their house and ate, really. I mean, that's about all they were doing.
And not a lot of vegetables either, because they don't have easily
snow
access
on the ground,
to it. Yeah, so they're eating a lot of cheeses and things that keep a long time.
And stored processed foods.
Yeah.
Nice.
So as opposed to living in a climate where they're growing a lot of extra food. That was the other thing.
Yeah. So then there was also a whole section on racial data, and one of the things that was just a couple of random things that I had seen looking at their color charts for how they displayed that demographic. Whites seem to be slightly less obese than other races in the western states. Blacks are quite heavily the most obese in the eastern states. Hispanics are kind of spread evenly throughout the whole U.S. With as far as like some areas are worse than others, but it's looked pretty even spread to me. Asians and other nationalities did not actually have their own graph. Most of the stuff that the CDC put together was black, white, and brown. That's it. They did note in quite a few other areas, not this particular graph, that Asians pretty much have the lowest levels of obesity of all races. There were also some stats on effects of these levels of obesity. Heart disease in particular, because obesity is directly related with heart disease, and heart disease kills around the same amount of people as all cancers put together. It is a very, very, very serious concern for humans in this culture. Diabetes rates were up 70% since 1995. That goes back quite a lot further back, but it is definitely definitely a significant increase. And if you haven't already heard, obesity is strongly connected with depression, cancer, fertility issues, respiratory disease, cognitive health like memory loss and thinking skills, musculoskeletal disorders like arthritic pain, injuries, atrophy in muscles and joints, often the knee, ankle, foot, and shoulders. And also there was another one, sleep apnea is a very common thing that I hear about, and it is definitely related to being overweight. And that can be really scary. I mean, if you don't know about sleep apnea, you can actually stop breathing in the middle of the night, and you can actually die from sleep apnea. That stuff can be no joke. And obviously, with all of these disorders, medical disorders, and conditions that are coming from obesity, it is costing Americans lots and lots of money in medical bills, and both to the insurance companies as well as personal costs, because most insurance companies don't cover most medical insurance doesn't cover all of the cost of medical procedures and care. So it's going to come out of our pockets too, as if we're going to the doctor a lot. The ironic thing is it actually costs us in our personal lives, not only just in the amount of food, like coming up with the money to pay to feed yourself all the food that you eat if you're heavily overweight, but also if you're trying to lose weight. There is a massive industry based around dieting and weight loss, and it costs us a lot. We spend a lot on whatever gyms, low calorie food, whatever diet, whatever the latest diet is out there. We drop tons of money on it. So it begs to question. Obviously, it's a huge issue, and from all that crap I listed there, it's got some serious implications. The first question that came to my mind anyway was, why is this happening? Like, what?
I think this for me. This entire conversation, this entire topic goes back to the food industry.
Definitely.
Yeah, marketing, food.
And because, I don't know any other way to even have this conversation without immediately talking about the mass production of crap food and how in America we have put the profits of these companies as being more important than a lot of other things, healthcare. These food industries are making millions of dollars, which is costing us more money because we're eating crap and we're being unhealthy. It's just this giant vicious circle. But the food industry has gotten away with basically doing anything they want in America since about World War II. And if you look at the people and the health of everybody as a whole, and you do the comparison, if you're old enough, I'm just old enough to remember what people looked like in the 70s. And just going back and making that reflection and watching the way the food industries took up when I was a little kid, yeah, there was fast food restaurants, but it was nothing like it is now.
No, they are everywhere now.
And it's not just that. There's just the amount of crap food that you buy, everything. I mean, everything that you eat is made as cheap as possible so that profits are higher and your health is lower.
Well, look at a grocery store, man. What size of a selection is set aside for vegetables and meat? And the rest of that entire box store is processed crap.
Yeah, it's the old saying, if you want to eat at a grocery store, go around the outer edge and then leave. Don't go in the middle, because everything in the middle, and that's how grocery stores are set up. That's how advertising and marketing all plays into the way a store is set up. When you go into shop somewhere, somebody has studied that process of you making the motion through this building and how to profit on it the most. And the food industry has one of those that done that with grocery stores and everything else. So everything we're eating, and we're 2 or 3 generations into being taught that Pop-Tarts are okay for breakfast. You know what I mean? Oh, just eat a Pop-Tart. Eat some, eat a donut. Eat just all this crap that we eat and the fast food thing.
Yeah,
and
I
being
love
shoved
donuts.
Yeah, I mean, but if you just watch it, I don't think any of this. Obviously, people are to blame for as much as you want to take that responsibility on an individual level. But the food industry has made a purpose of making billions of dollars on the backs of us being unhealthy.
Absolutely. Another other side of that exact same coin, the diet industry is massive. So
I think those are secondary industries, though. They were like, well, hell, this is going on. Let's make some money off of that, too.
True, but they're also going to be a strong proponent for keeping us fat, even though they're selling us,
no, I
things
agree,
to lose
100%.
weight. But they're also working.
But I think
in
they're
conjunction.
lobbying in the. So let's make the obesity of us as like a governing body. So they are lobbying in their little parts, there's special interest in all of this. And if you look at the way industry is in America, I feel like it's an entity, the food industry, and you look at all these special interest groups like the dieting thing, they all interplay into each other. We're screwed.
We also have different categories of diet type products that are available to us. Like you can go in the frozen food section and there's a whole row of diet food, air quotes, which is pretty much a sham. They sell you something and label it as 100 calorie, but it's more or less a snack for someone who's trying to lose weight. And they pack it full of the same
Well, it has to last 45 years on the shelf.
700 milligrams of sodium in the thing.
Yeah.
Exactly, which is not doing anybody any good. And then the other side of like the diet products, you can get into like whey proteins or other things along those lines that are marketed more towards someone who is a bit more active in trying to do the right thing. But many of those products also aren't tested or really scrutinized enough to be really helping you out a whole lot, unless you get into the specialized expensive stuff, and then that may be more of a benefit to you. And also to hit on what Thomas was talking about earlier, it's like back in the 70s, a loaf of bread wasn't as big volume-wise as they are sold to us today. Now we're definitely being pushed on a larger quantity, like Costco size,
because you can make more money off selling more stuff.
Yeah, and they tell us that we're saving money by buying all of this, and in order to make it last longer, they're pumping more chemicals into it. Have you guys?
Vicious circle,
right? Who here has seen a loaf of Hostess white bread ever go stale?
Yeah, I try not to buy
who wants
Hostess
to
white
go
bread, but
buy? Yeah, exactly. Wonder Bread.
Right? Yeah, the Wonder Bread.
I wonder if it'll ever be real.
Yeah, that's the thing, that they were selling that to us as being full of vitamins and stuff like, or maybe not to us, our parents when they were young adults, but it definitely wasn't.
Yep.
Yeah, but food was in this perfect little spot where you were post World War II, and a lot of things were being sold to people out of just need, and so companies were thriving. People needed stuff. We were growing. I mean, look at how we sold cigarettes in the 50s.
Yeah.
You think we were selling food any different?
That same industry was kind of the birth of the TV dinner too, right?
Absolutely.
That was sit down as a family and eat your family meal in front of the TV.
Out of the single-use aluminum container.
Yep. Yeah, they totally. Oh yeah, and then plastic later so you could microwave it when the microwave started getting real big, right?
Yeah.
Later in history. Okay, so I had come up with a few other things that I had read that were real common causes of this. There was another statistic that showed this is off of the CDC website as well, that exercise among people in the U.S. seems to be, actually, this surprised me, seems to be holding stable. However, it's only 25% of us actually exercising on a regular basis. Most people, and like myself included, are working a day job where you're sitting all day, and then you're getting in your car and you're commuting and you're sitting all day, and you're probably sitting right now as you listen to this.
And you're going to buy your food sitting in that car.
Yeah,
and you're going to eat in that car.
We never get up anymore, and and if you're sitting all day, you're obviously not moving around. So yeah, you're not exercising. Another common cause of weight gain is actually higher stress levels. So from these jobs that we don't move in, we stress over, or just life in general, we have higher stress rates than we used to back in the day, and that causes you to gain your body to actually hold weight and
again,
more.
This goes all to everything that we're putting in our foods.
Yeah, and also lifestyles too.
I think stressful people that are stressed out or depressed will eat for comfort.
Yeah.
And I think that adds to it. And if you're also eating food that's not as healthy, it's not as efficient, right? You can eat.
You can snack on it forever.
Right. And you're hungry almost immediately later.
Yeah.
But if you eat something healthier, you're happy and satisfied longer.
Part of that is fluctuating your glycemic index, your body sugar levels.
Yes.
If you eat something high in carbs, your blood sugar spikes. Well, once it spikes, it's going to have a massive fall off, which will, cause
makes you to feel like
right.
crap.
So yeah, you eat something sugary or
compensate,
and sugar can be a beer or bread, any carbohydrate.
Kind of sounds like a drug addiction to me.
It is.
It
totally is.
Sugar.
They have
it
right?
is super addictive.
And I think that's some things that we're going to have to do in the future is we're going to have to start identifying the reality of some things. Like I agree, sugar is a drug.
Absolutely.
It's
high
been used
fructose corn syrup
is a drug.
Is a drug.
And they've been used as drugs on people
drug. Oh, yeah.
in malice ways to make profits.
That's why there's nothing that McDonald's puts out that doesn't have tons of high fructose corn syrup in it, including those ketchups and I love it when you go to places too that like I don't even know if it's nationwide, but like Chick-fil-A. Okay, it's an okay chicken sandwich, right? But then I've only been there like 3 times, and every time I've gone, oh, you got to try this. Whoever I was with is, oh, you got to get the sauce. You got to get the sauce. You gotta start looking at the sauce. All the sauces are just sugar. They're like, well, of course you like it, man. All you're doing is putting high fructose corn syrup on everything that everything that you're eating here.
And you can chemically make anything taste like anything.
It's kind of like deep frying, man. I've said it before. I'll say it many times again. You could deep fry my shoe, and I would like it, dude. I mean, it's just deep frying as one of those amazing
With
things.
a side of butter.
Yeah, it's it's just like since it's kind of the same thing with sugar. Another thing that does lead to obesity too is just flat out not enough sleep. Americans do not sleep enough.
Nope.
We have this. We seem to.
I think
have
Glenn
this,
does.
Glenn does sleep a lot.
I sleep pretty good too.
Yeah, I sleep terrible
Because you guys have these routines, and which brings us to another conversation about being unhealthy, is the way America is working. You know, we have these schedules now. We think we're this amazing, important industrial entity of humanity, and so we're just drilling our people to death to get one more report,
That's exactly
one
where I was
more
going with this.
whatever done.
Yep. Yeah, and what does that do? That increases stress level.
You eat a lot on the run.
That reduces sleep. It makes it so that you have to eat on the run. You can't be making good food. All these things line up to explain why even if you are conscious, even if you are successful, even if you are wealthy, you can't get away from these things.
You're still
because
trapped.
You're still trapped within the same system that we're all suffering from. I think it was Rick or one of you, either Rick or Thomas mentioned it already. Portion sizes are set way too large in this country. On average, by 20% more than we need. And that one's bugged me my whole life, man. It's like, who decided now? And I freaking love hamburgers. So, and I will eat a half pounder, no problem, with a side of fries. But who in the hell decided I needed a half pound of meat with a fat, like, bread bun? And
That's a lot of our problems, too, is the portions thing. When you go to Europe, that's one thing you'll notice real quick is you're like, people don't eat that much food. You're in America, if you go to Europe and come back here, one of the first things I noticed was this is a culture where they're just trying to feed. They're just trying to get you to buy, consume.
Exactly. You're
whatever.
consumers.
You're a consumer.
Pigs. We're pigs in a trough.
We're
man.
treated so much differently. And like in Europe, a lot of people eat very, very smaller meals, way less often. They don't carry food around with them constantly.
I don't think I ever told you, Rick, but there was when I've known Rick for a long, long time, and when he was in college, I think we were at a local burger and beer place, and he was the first time I'd ever seen anybody do this. He cut a burger in half. He was trying to maintain his calorie intake or whatever. He cuts the burger in half and only eats half of it. I'm like, what the hell, dude? I was like, I never thought of like reducing my own portion
But you've been
size.
trained to think that you eat this giant thing.
That's the serving
time,
size.
right?
Part of the Clean Your Plate Club.
Yes, which is how many of us were raised from an older time, right? Because
Don't waste food.
Yeah, when we were eating healthier food, that food was expensive, and it was good for you to eat your peas and your carrots and whatever.
I think a lot of that is also a holdover from the Great Depression mentality,
Yes.
where
It is.
food was very scarce. So
Because it comes from our great grandparents, and they come from a
right.
time when things were way different.
You mentioned this in a previous podcast that we're thinking a generation behind.
Yeah, big time. So when I had seen somebody do that, it stuck with me. And like I said, I don't think I ever mentioned it to you after that. But it was just like, oh, man, we totally can control our proportion, the amount that we intake. And I try and do that as often as possible. Like I'll cut my burrito at half or, in half if I go to a Mexican restaurant or something or and try and if nothing else, too, the other thing that I found was real good doing some research is if you eat smaller portions, it's actually better to eat a smaller portion now and eat that, a similar smaller portion later. So it's not like you have to throw the food away, take it with you, and eat it later. Spreading it out instead of gorging yourself in one sitting, which is something I'm known to do. I actually enjoy the lethargic nature that comes afterwards. I love
12 hours of eating.
Dude,
and
I
then
love
puking.
God. No, I love the food coma, man. It's like the most best sleep ever when you're stuffed and you go lay down. It's like, so these things are hard to get past, and especially when
but those are really rough on your body.
Oh hell yeah, it's totally bad for it, and that's exactly. And then what do you do when you gorge yourself to your like super comatose, right? You go to sleep. You put yourself into a low metabolic state, which means you keep more of the fat that you just ate anyway. It's
Right, your body converts more of it to fat.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's exact opposite of what we should do. And
Especially if you do that right before you go to bed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. And that's I try to never to eat before like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or something like that, right? And for that exact reason. And then worse, you'll drink a soda with it, or you'll have a little bit of dessert, and you're like, oh great, now you've got that sugar to go ahead and help you convert all that stuff to fat. it's how, but we've been structured that way for a reason. I mean, or it's just, I mean, it's
So
part
somebody
of
can
it,
make billions of dollars off of us.
Part of it came to be that way, but part of me feels like they're keeping it that way for a reason.
So they can make billions of
Yeah.
dollars.
But they're only making billions of dollars off us because we choose to buy and support their products.
That's it, and that
It's
So-
true, but we're also being told how great they are on television.
Sure, I
on
mean,
Instagram or
there's
whatever.
I mean, advertisement, marketing, it's huge. And they've studied how to convince us to think in certain ways. And they are trying to tell us to think in these patterns. That's why I don't watch TV. I avoid advertisements. I couldn't tell you,
Yeah.
No,
But
me too.
then it's also the disconnect that we have with a lot of the average American. I don't watch a lot of TV. Actually, when I see a TV on, it kind of disturbs me. I'm a little, I want to get away from it. I make a point of like, I don't want to do this.
Yep,
I don't
I look
watch
away.
this. I look away. But it's socially acceptable to be this person. This is part of being an American.
Yeah.
And I think that, and we've said this before too, when you say something against that, you either become a conspiracy theorist or you're
or a
some
terrorist.
weirdo or a terrorist or whatever because you question anything.
Domestic terrorists.
But yeah, we're being taught to eat. I mean, look at the awesome cartoons that you see with cereal. I mean, when I was a little kid, I wanted to eat Lucky Charms.
hell yeah.
So I was like, I want to jump on that rainbow and slide around.
You know what?
I bought shoes to run faster.
It tripped me out the first time I had Lucky Charms. I thought they were gross. I did not like them at all. I couldn't believe it. Like it was
Like, what is
confusing.
this powder thing?
Yeah, that marshmallow thing that was. It was so nasty.
And that stuff is terrible. And that's some of the worst food on the planet is cereal.
Yeah, no joke, but I love cereal, but not the high sugar.
That's why you like it,
cereals or whatever.
because it's got all the little endorphins implanted into it, so it like triggers your brain.
That's
I think
right.
we're going to find out one day that the food industry is so smart that they have figured out exactly what little chemical mix they can
They
put
have.
into every single food to stimulate any type of thing in our brain,
They have.
including what we think we taste.
Oh yeah, no, they have. Just to a certain degree, they already have, and they've been playing it off of it for decades now.
yeah.
And go ahead.
A point on that. Repeated exposure to different flavors will change how you interpret them. If you stop drinking, if you're somebody who drinks soda, stop
For a month. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done that. Oh yeah.
Give it a break. Just go with iced tea, unsweetened, no sugar in your drink for a time, and then after about a month, try a soda.
It'll blow you
I've
away
done
how
that.
strong it is.
It's like drinking chlorine.
Yeah, it's crazy. It does not taste good after that time.
Yeah, it's really way too strong. Yep.
Yeah, I stopped drinking sodas about 20 years ago or so.
Wow.
And I started forcing myself to drink more water and iced tea just as a supplement for. I mean, you have to hydrate somehow.
Yeah.
But Pepsi doesn't hydrate you
No.
anyway, or a
No,
Mountain Dew or anything.
no soda hydrates you.
None.
Period.
And-
There's no such thing as that.
Yeah, and
with the sodium and the sugar, no.
Not at all. And so when I stopped doing that, and I purposed, I was like, I'm going to do this. I made it a something I wanted to do in my life to be healthier. Within a year, I noticed how much healthier my teeth were.
Oh yeah,
Was the first thing.
yeah.
'Cause
You're
I always
just like
had-
bathing your teeth in
Oh
sugar.
my god!
Like
yeah.
it's
You're just
so
coating
bad.
it and like
Yeah. I still drink soda with cocktails though. Like if it's got alcohol in it.
Yeah, but
that's-
then you get headaches next morning, don't you?
Oh, you know what? That's okay. That I never had. That's funny you mentioned that. I never had that problem when I was younger. But now, if I do a night of Jack and Cokes, dude, I got a messed up headache the
Exactly.
next morning.
Dude,
And that
dude,
never used to happen to me.
Do it. You're better off do a shot and chase it with water.
Yeah. Well, so
You're going to be just as drunk.
I've slowly, I've slowly mixed into more just like straight alcohol on the rocks or something like that.
That's better.
And not only is it you're drinking less liquid, so you don't have to take a piss as often. You can also pace yourself real just gently. You buy one drink and you sit on that one for a bit.
That's why the smart guy in the corner is sipping his drink.
That's right. Yeah.
And it looks pretty classy, and the ladies
Yeah.
like that.
with you with the old man drink, I don't know.
You got a cigar or a pipe with that.
I can see Ben over there with a pinky ring.
Hey, little girl, I'll be your daddy.
I got all night to sip on this ice, baby.
Yeah. That's how you guys see me.
And the rest of the world.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Everything's a drink to me.
Yeah, and you guys had already mentioned that, so that was another thing I had on my list was processed foods and fast foods and prepackaged foods, and pretty much anything in plastic or a can is probably bad for you. And but it's so convenient, and it's really tough to fight that. And yeah,
And it's there, and you don't really have a lot of choices. For a lot of years, we haven't had choices.
just like Glenn said, you walk in that damn supermarket, and dude, freaking 80% of it is bad food for you. It's just
The choices are there. You just have to look for it and make the conscious decision to make the good choice. I think a big part of it, aside from the food industry, is also education. I went back.
All education.
Yeah. They don't do home ec in school anymore, so they're not teaching young people how to plan a meal and cook a meal for themselves. I would be surprised if children know how to make themselves sandwiches anymore.
They don't. They don't.
Right.
Trust me. My brother has a kid, his youngest kid, that he reminds me of so many millennials that I know that are like, can you boil some water?
Yeah. They think all food comes from a microwave or a fast food
Or
drive-through
dad.
line. Yeah,
Dad.
Food comes from dad. I don't know.
or other things like doing laundry and whatnot. That's aside from the point. So I was going to get at, I went back to college later on in life. So I was about 30 when we were getting close to graduation, and I had noticed that most of my counterparts were in their early to mid 20s, and none of them ate well until they went home for holidays, or if they were lucky enough to live at home or live close to home. And they had commented that my roommate and I would cook and clean our houses like adults,
Which was crazy.
which was crazy for them. They commented that they thought we were gay for a while. That's
That's
another
America for you.
podcast. Yeah.
If you can cook and clean up after yourself
And
and,
take
you're a
care of yourself.
man,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
probably gay.
But you go to their place and they're eating cereal or Pop-Tarts and stuff all semester. They pile up their laundry until it's time to go to mom's house. Their apartment smells like cat shit. And it's like, how do you guys get girls to come over here and bone you? You know?
Because they're
I
just
don't
as
get
stupid as they are.
Yeah, but they're full
Because
blown
their
adults.
apartments look the same.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It's the
like, oh.
cheerleader and the athlete
Yeah.
syndrome. Come on.
Oh, we're home.
they're full blown adults and they can't cook for themselves.
Well, they're not full-blown adults. They're just tall,
Okay, well, we let them vote and buy guns,
which is a mistake.
And if they stay in college long enough, they can buy alcohol too, right? Once
Yeah,
they get
this is
21.
true,
Most
yeah.
college students could buy alcohol when they, a couple years after they start.
Yeah, they can create a life, but they can't make macaroni and cheese.
They can't
by
take care of their
themselves.
own?
Yeah,
Nice.
So I have this almost a desire to see an economic collapse just to watch how these people flail.
Dude, so many of us are going to starve. I mean, nobody knows how to hunt. Nobody knows how to prepare food. I mean, yeah, we'll start eating each other before we figure out how to survive.
Well,
otherwise.
as soon as electricity goes down, we're screwed.
yeah. Could you imagine someone trying to start a fire with their iPhone?
There's no app for that. The apps won't work anyway. That's great.
Maybe if they have one of those Samsungs, they'll try and charge it, and that'll start their fire.
Let the battery blow up. I want to shift directions here a little bit, and I want to talk about something that the media is doing that has bothered me since I first started noticing it. But I want to be careful how I say this, so I'll preclude this with I am not saying that overweight people should be shamed. That's not where I'm going with this. So I'm going to try and word this properly so it doesn't sound that way. It seems to me that media, and by media I mean movies, TV shows, the news, anything, you see it coming through that boob tube or that, or through the radio. Well, not really through the radio, mostly visual stuff. That's what I mean by media. It seems to me that lately they have been trying to promote more and more overweight actors, overweight models, maybe not even overweight, just thicker. And that's fine. That part's fine. Or overweight comedians. I'm not saying that these people shouldn't be in the media. That's not it at all. But what does concern me with this is that movement seems to be extended by the perception that people get from it, that it is becoming okay to be overweight. That's obviously a little bit of a long shot, but what we see, so for example, the converse of that is all we saw were super skinny models and super skinny actresses and, super skinny whatever, anybody on TV, right? They're all in shape. They're all like perfect and whatever, right? That's what the type of people they want to put on there.
But yeah, we have to include everybody.
Yeah, well, okay. So, but when that was the case, as it still kind of is, people would say, people would feel bad about themselves because a majority of us do not look like that. So what the hell, it's going to make you feel bad. So the argument was that if we started putting thicker or overweight people on TV and promoting them, making them humorous, making them likable, whatever, that it would represent other people who were not super skinny and not super beautiful. That part, I believe, is true. The problem with it is the more you put out there, the more I think people feel it's okay to be unhealthily overweight.
I've said it before. Pop culture normalizes things.
Exactly, and
They're
that's what
normalizing being unhealthy,
That's what I don't like about it is people will you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. They see somebody who's slightly overweight on there, and if they are obese and not healthy, they think, oh, well, look, this person's just like me. I can relate to this person. It's like, no, that person is probably has a few extra pounds and is probably more healthy than than most people are ever in their. I mean, they're on TV. They're wealthy. They're got to be wealthy. There's something's. They're
That's
probably
CGI.
It's that camera adds that 50 pounds on there, right?
Brad Pitt doesn't weigh 300 pounds.
No, it just concerns me that people will use that as an excuse to consider themselves okay when they really should be taking care of themselves better and not.
Well,
if they are unhealthily obese.
For me, it's easy to understand all of this. If you look at these industries like the food industry and everything we've talked about with advertising, the diet industry, all these people, they have a set in motion, a giant money machine.
That's right.
Based on our bad health. So if all of a sudden people start realizing, oh my gosh, drinking this makes my skin blue and I have pores, I should stop doing this. But if everybody else looks that way, and then you start seeing that it's that way, and after a while, another generation or a couple generations, that everybody sees it okay. I'm not saying that not everyone is bigger. People are big, but
people are all sizes.
They're all sizes, but a lot of our problems with our general health is that we are allowing ourselves to fall into this giant trap of the circle of food and crap and everything else that we're just taking it. And with the with having larger people on, I think it's normalizing this look. It's making you, this is normal. This is the average person.
Yeah.
So pretty soon that body image is going to keep changing. It evolves all the time. So if we go at the rate we're going now in 100 years, it'll be okay for an average person to weigh 400 pounds.
Yeah.
At the same time, I would also argue that body size fluctuates with trend. If you
Absolutely.
look at us historically, I mean, through periods of time, the larger people were the more attractive ones.
Well, they were wealthier, for sure.
Right. They didn't have to work as hard.
But were they unhealthy? That's the argument.
And that's my argument, too.
Yeah.
It's they were unhealthy.
That's why I wanted to preclude this statement with, I'm not talking about people, because I
don't care if you're big, small, skinny, or whatever.
No, and people come in all different shapes and sizes. It's ridiculous. If you have, like, say, for example, Viking blood in your history or whatever, I mean, you might have really big bones. You're never going to be a 100-pound supermodel or whatever, but you're going to be a big boned,
right.
Big strong person. You're going to have hella muscle. Your bones can hold more muscle. They can hold thicker skin. You're just going to be a large person. You're not an unhealthily obese person. There's a huge difference.
I don't think any of us
that.
are trying to make any sort of like comment towards people that are larger in any way too. It's just it really is an argument of being unhealthy and being lied to by industries that are really just scamming us constantly, and we're paying for it in our health. Look at our healthcare now. Yeah. It's a disaster because we can't. I mean, look how unhealthy we are. Everybody has type 2 diabetes.
And that's kind of where I was going with that. That was where I have my notes here. That's where I wanted to lead that to was what is...
I'd like to add to that, actually. I disagree with what you had originally said. I think that our visual media has kind of maintained the regular trend. If you think back to the 70s, like Thomas had said earlier, he remembers that the average person was of a much leaner demeanor. So actors like Jim Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, those guys were kind of considered overweight for their time.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if you go back and you watch Blues Brothers, you're like, well, those guys were, an average-sized individual. They still had people like John Candy and stuff as well that held that larger buddy type role.
But I mean, that's like we were saying before, is that people have been of all sizes forever, and I don't think that's the argument. It's the unhealthiness of things.
Ironically, what happened to John Candy?
Well, yeah, okay, so
that's
so
what
those
happens
things
to a lot of them like that.
And I get that, but what I was going to get at was I think we had gone to a unhealthy skinny trend.
Oh yeah,
whereas
that's for sure.
Our models went from like a Marilyn Monroe to like I can't think of anyone from the 70s. Help me out here.
How about any Victoria's Secret model?
Yeah,
and then now you get to today where they're walking skeletons, and I think that what we're seeing here is the pendulum is swinging to the other side to where we need models that we can relate to. So they're going with what they're calling plus size models, air quotes.
And most of those girls are not even plus size either. They're just like thick at best. But
and if you saw them in real life, it's like, you're a regular woman. Yeah. Whereas if you saw Angelina Jolie in real life, you're like, that lady needs a fucking salad.
Skeletor.
You need a burger now.
Yeah. So that was my point.
No, yeah, and I agree with that. However, I have noticed that some of the people who are being made famous, and I can't think of any names off the top of my head right now. Well, maybe Like for example, comedian. What's the dude, the fluffy guy, the Julio Iglesias? Is that
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that guy. I mean, they're putting again, nobody gets famous in this world unless somebody else can make money off of them. It's not like, hey, you're great, I'm going to make you famous. No, it's, hey, I think I can make money off of you. Now I'm going to go stick you out in the media and go work for me. I'm going to pimp you out, basically.
Yeah, but they show up with a certain set of skills.
True. No.
Right.
But again, they have to be marketable, and they also have to have a look that they're looking for. So playing off of kind of what Thomas was going, which is where I was hoping the conversation was going to go anyway, is that somebody is controlling who is being selected to be put out there. These are all private companies. You don't see anything on TV unless a private company.
Well, it's called programming.
Yeah, exactly. But it's and who selects that? Well, the company that owns that television station or that production company or whatever is setting up that programming. They're looking for specific people for a specific reason, and that's what they're putting out there. And that's why I have been thinking, well, since I know that that's the case, they are, to me, it seemed they were selecting, more and more larger people to put on there, which in turn I was concerned that is making people think this is okay, because
It's normalizing it.
that's exactly what I'm concerned with. And people who are not just thick or not just big boned, but truly overweight and unhealthy are
Well-
going to use that to think it's okay.
Well, almost anywhere you go in America now, whether it's to a corner market, a mall, even on vacation, just traveling around, I see a lot of people in motorized chairs.
Yeah.
Those are the worst. Or
I'm-
segways.
Segways, I feel like to me is different, but
You still have to be a little physically apt to
Do a
get on a
Segway.
Segway.
Kinda.
But I see so many people that are
Standing
just
is not an activity.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Keep
Standing.
going.
But that's what I was saying. I mean, that just reminds me of that. And it just seems like, we're making it easier to be less active, less in charge, less responsible.
We're accommodating it.
We're accommodating it.
Yep. Or enabling it.
And I think that's it's totally happening.
Yep.
But we're enabling it and we're making it okay. Go ahead and shoot yourself in the head. I'll throw a pillow down when you fall.
Yeah. Line two is drive-through too long at McDonald's. Don't worry, we'll make 2 drive-through lines.
Right.
We'll make sure you get your food.
Yeah.
Can you imagine though if I don't know how it is wherever you guys are listening, but around our area, day and night, even dude, this one blows me away. Even on Thanksgiving or Christmas, there will be lines wrapped around the drive-through for every McDonald's all the way down the street.
Are they open on those days?
They are.
Wow.
They are, and there's lines wrapped around them. Can you imagine though if they only served very slowly, and there was only one drive-through line, and it was a pain in the ass to get food there? Would people still line up every night?
Well, that's bad for business, man.
Yeah, that's it, man. I mean, they'll accommodate you. They'll enable you. Keep eating. Keep eating. Keep
I'm
eating.
surprised there's not like an actual off ramp on some highways that just loops through. I mean, like if you go through like Chicago and stuff, you have like when you're going out of Chicago to like north Wisconsin and stuff like that, there's all these like little stops, and they're literally just like this whip. And I always thought, man, this is so crazy because you're on the highway. This is your only option. This is, you just whip in, grab, and go, and you're just siphoning through it. It was like a vein. It just reminded me of a vein, and it was really scary.
Gross.
But I feel like that's how we're doing a lot of these things. We're just making it so easy that it just circles its way right into you. Going through McDonald's is so easy.
Yep. So the next question that came to my mind with thinking about this is, what the heck is even being done about this? Or is anything even being done about it? A lot of these practices start when we're young, and we are at this point in time, multiple generations into eating like this and living like this. And people are raising people who live this way, and the problem is only continuing and getting worse. So it's kind of seems like the only way to change it is to not only start with the youth, but it just in general, flat out education on how to be healthy. I think that's what a lot of us are missing in knowing how to do it or what to do. And it seems very intimidating when you've grown up eating macaroni and cheese and hot dogs and whatever the hell else, your sandwiches with processed meat and start and tons of bleach in your bread. It's like we grew up eating that crap.
So really, it's going to take a conscious effort from parents to set examples for their children.
That's right. And schools and the food that they serve too, which that has been the biggest movement I've seen, is that there are a lot of schools that are switching up their dietary offerings
Yeah.
and what they sell for the lunches and the reduced lunches and take the Taco Bells out of the high schools. I mean, what the
They
hell
need
is
to
that
get
crap?
rid of vending machines at schools.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No soda machines
yeah,
at all.
Yeah, exactly. None of that. So because there's no good option for that other than bottled water, and even that.
I've heard they cut out or removed soda and vending machines from campuses, but I didn't realize that they were fixing the menu in the cafeteria. 'Cause
Some of them.
Yeah, growing up, the cafeteria food was terrible.
Yep, that's what I grew
even
up
as
on.
a child, I knew that cardboard pizza was not good for anyone. But
Yep.
when they introduced like Taco Bell or
Yeah,
Round
well,
Table,
I never went to a school that had a vending machine in it. You could, if you got caught with a Coke in my high school, dude, you were out.
Really?
If you had a Coke on you or a Pepsi or some kind of thing like that.
Really? They
Oh
would
my
take
God,
sodas from you?
Yeah, you couldn't have stuff like that in class, in school.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, I did not. That was before our
That
yeah,
was the 80s.
Wow.
yeah.
Now they
15
can't even take their
years
cell phones
later-
away from them.
I know. It's ridiculous.
I remember, when I was going to school, they would take your cell phone. There was
If
no-
I caught you eating
Nobody even
or
had 'em
having
anyway,
had
but-
snacks or something, they'd either kick you out of class or take it from you.
Wow. Yeah, so the other part of that too is increased education and physical activity inside and outside of school. The whole sports thing, I have a love-hate relationship with. I mean, obviously, I believe any physical activity is good, but they've made a very profitable industry off of that whole take your kids to soccer crap and football and baseball and all this other stuff. I mean, I know parents that are dropping $1,000 a month in addition to paying for the school, taking their kids around, and they got a game in another, in a whole different part of the state. They got to pay for hotel. Anyway, it's ridiculous.
They're just getting brain injuries.
I mean, it's that's pretty crazy. But it is good that their kids are being active. However, there are way cheaper ways that your kids could be exercising and being
Send them to
active.
Europe.
Well, there
It'd
you
be cheaper.
Yeah. I guess over time, sure, they could study abroad for the price you pay for them to play soccer every
Uniforms and all this other shit. I mean, yeah, I'm
It's
with you. I have
tremendously
friends
expensive.
I have friends that tell me what they spend for their kids to do this or that, and I'm like, I would never spend that much money on any other human but me.
Every time I hear that, I'm like, I'm so thankful I don't have kids.
Right?
Man. So we had already mentioned they're changing the food served in school to some schools. However, this is not being done in lower income areas. So, they're still going for whatever is the cheapest.
Well, there's
for them
still
to pick up.
advertising though too. I mean, we have been sort of stepping up in some ways to say, hey, let's not put this in our food, let's not put that in our food. But we need to back off on the advertising of crap foods.
Yeah.
We just went through this whole thing about cigarettes, and I think cigarette industry and the food industry are so close to each other that I think you're going to see at some point a mirroring of how we've identified cigarettes.
Well, they're both drug dealers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so what was the
and they should be
justification?
identified as such.
Yeah, and so everyone knows what was the justification for taking tobacco off of the advertising, right? Well, cigarettes kill people. Well, guess what, guys? Bad food kills people. Lots of them, more than breast cancer, which
Yeah.
everybody's so willing to donate their dollar for the latest cancer.
But it
fad.
also adds a lot of stress to everything else, not only us as humans, but to like healthcare. There's so many other things that are affected by us being out of health. So everybody's got to be in a nursing home now. You got, in care this or this care that, because people can't do anything. They can't move. They have every disease known to man. So just the cost of us taking care of each other is, there's so many side effects.
Oh,
to
yeah.
it. But if you're in one industry like the food industry and you're making billions of dollars, you probably are invested in those other sides too that are making
Yep.
money off this whole
Yep.
thing.
And it is a true statement to say that everything in this country would be better if we all ate better. Everything. I mean,
Everything.
it extends out to everything. That's what's crazy.
I think we should close I think we should start as an ordinance in cities. And one of the things that was cool about when I first moved to Los Angeles is I didn't see a lot of fast food and
No,
stuff.
the Bay Area is like that too. In
Yeah.
a very expensive area, they don't want fast food
That's right.
there.
And,
They will
and
not
I
allow
really,
them to build it.
I really enjoyed it. It was one of the first things I enjoyed about moving to LA. But I think we should, as anything that is sold to the general public, there should be a limit of how much of that can be in a certain area. Like you can't have 15 Starbucks in this county.
Yep.
You can have 3.
Yeah, and like Glenn was getting at, as we teach our children to make these good decisions, you're purchasing less of the product from the suppliers, whether it's fast food industry or sugary products. At that point, you're voting with your dollar, and eventually they take notice and they have to win you back somehow. So instead of making sodas, they'll start making Gatorades, and well, that's still too sugary, right? So okay, well, we're going to figure out how else we're going to take our current industry and cater it to the new trend.
But wouldn't it be nice if, speaking with our dollars, catered that towards healthy options?
Yeah.
Like, you have to give us healthy food because we're not going to deal with you anymore.
But that
Well,
was Glenn's point.
that's. But it comes back to the consumer at that point.
Absolutely.
We have to be putting our money into those options and not buying the crap.
Yep.
Ultimately, it comes back to us.
Yeah.
You can't just blame the corporations.
Yeah.
They're
They'll
going to do what they can to make every dollar they can.
Yeah, they'll make this shit as long as we keep eating it. And like you had gotten to, Ben, I'm glad you brought it up. In low-income areas, they don't have hardly any healthy alternatives. These people, their grocery shopping happens in liquor stores.
Yep.
They don't have grocery stores available to them. If they don't have a car, they can't drive to the next city to where their closest grocery store is. They have to walk or take public transportation. And, it's like they're eating Cheetos. That's their dinner. And maybe even if they're lucky to get that, or what they're served at school.
Yep. That's very true.
But there's a church and a McDonald's on every other corner, though.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And so when I asked that question, that's exactly where I was expecting it to go, and that's where my thought process went too. Is there the hard truth of it is there really isn't much anyone else can do for us. It comes down to every individual making the decision to make that change in their life. Period. I mean, you made the change. You made the decision to be however you are now. And you can make a decision to change to be another way. It's just, that's the way it is.
Well, this is the conversation how you wrapped up the last show. Is it our personal responsibility to take care of our security, or is it the government's? Like Thomas was getting at, he's saying they should make it so they can't overindulge us with this. Well, part of that is our responsibility. Yeah, it would be nice if Big Brother would step in and help us out on some of those
Well, I
things,
think
too.
for me, I was saying more like us as
A community?
yeah, and as our everything from our community, I mean, really at a very local level, but you look at like different counties, little areas, little neighborhoods and stuff. We as the people who live here and do things here, we have the option to say and step up, just like city council meetings.
Like approved zoning for
we
extra
can.
fast
If
food
people
in
wanted to
certain
change things like that, and when I say we, I think or they should change it. I think it's really, I think, in a smaller level. I always think in a community level, like city council, and I move up from there. So I think when, like in downtown Sacramento, there's not a lot of fast food restaurants here.
No,
And
there
they have actively done that, just like San Francisco has. That's what I like about these types of areas, but they're also expensive to live in.
Yeah, and the food that is available, while better for you, is
It's
expensive too. That's what
But
sucks.
but when I say that, I think that you're totally right. We should initiate the fact that we've identified this as a problem, and just because somebody's making a ton of money, okay, so let's just say, and I'm sorry, I'm keep using Starbucks, but that's okay.
That's actually
a perfect example.
because all that place peddles is overpriced bean juice and sugar. All
Drugs.
That it's a
It's
drug.
drugs. It's a
man.
drug.
Caffeine and sugar.
Yeah. But so this entity comes into this community, and we'll just call it County A, and there's a big population. They can put a bunch of stores in. Okay, well, they started with 3. Now they got 7. Now they got 25. Okay, well, first of all, you're flooding a market because you can, which we as the citizens of that community should stand up and go, wait, this isn't cool. You can't have 45 gun shops. Why should you have 45 Starbucks? They're equally as bad, people. They really are. And so we need to, as communities, say we want to limit how much of this crap is in our area, but they'll just go to another community where they can get away with it. That's kind of what they do.
Oh, yeah.
But it's an active thing that I think we in our community should step up and start doing. Go to your city council. If you're like, man, there's just nothing but crap food in my neighborhood, go to your city council meeting and say that.
Yeah, and stop buying it.
And stop buying it.
And if some communities adopt that, other communities will take note.
Oh, they
and
will.
And it may take off. And when that starts to happen, that's when the voting with your dollar really kicks in. And
Yes.
they still want to get in. They just got to figure out a healthier way to do it, or to circumvent.
And it's already happening right now. I mean, look at what the changes McDonald's has made with their advertising. That doesn't mean that they're actually doing it. Doesn't mean that they're actually a good option.
No, but
they
they-
have
yeah.
definitely tried to change their advertising, and now the stupid locations look like they're Starbucks inside with the fancy coffee house
Yeah.
look. And
Look at
it's
this fancy
ridiculous.
place you want to come hang out in.
I went to one in the Bay Area that had damn chandeliers hanging, and I was like, and the arches weren't yellow; they were black. I like,
That should say a lot. That's the king of the industry. They don't have to listen to anybody.
but they do now.
But if they are, that means a big deal.
I mean, somebody's making a difference with their dollar.
What I love is when you go out to one of these places, not necessarily fast food, but a restaurant, and you order a salad that costs as much as a burger.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's
It's-
just
it's-
iceberg lettuce.
Right.
It's just cheap crap in there.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I hate that. Yeah, unless it's good lettuce, right? Yeah. Let's go.
Premium lettuce.
That's right. Yeah, butterball, man. I wanted to go over just real quick on our way out here some ways that we can that we as a group use and just as to offer suggestions for what we've tried, what I've tried in particular for some of these here to try and change our eating habits. I mean, it's super hard. I mean, like I said, how I grew up. I understand how difficult it can be. The first thing is don't ignore everything you see in the media. Ignore the diets. Ignore the. Don't look at any of the. If you are seeing it on the television, somebody's paying for you to see it.
Wait, you mean everything on the TV is not totally true?
That's it.
And happening right now.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly. Get online. Try to avoid highly commercial websites or obvious advertisements. Or if you got to do it, go to your local community college and take a nutrition class. Just learn the basics of what the hell is actually happening in your body when you eat whatever the heck it is you're eating. When you go down that path, I promise you will understand better what is happening to us when we put these things in our body, and from there you can then make a more educated decision as to what you choose to eat. Learn to make food instead of buying it. That's freaking
Learn
tough
to
for
cook.
me. I hate cooking. I don't like but I did look for very, very quick things that I could throw together. And juicing, while it does break up a lot of the fiber structures, which are actually extremely healthy for you, it is. I mean, I don't care if I blend up a whole bunch of fruits and vegetables and drink it. It's still better than going to Burger King and getting a burger and fries.
In your situation, something like a crock pot, you could set that and forget it, go to work, come back, and you've got dinner and lunch made for the week.
Yep. Or I gotta have an automatic rice cooker too. That thing will just trigger like an hour before I get home, and there's my freaking rice.
There's an industry out there for people like that. You're cooking for one or two. You want healthier alternatives. So if you look for it, you can find a healthier alternative and develop a new way of life, really.
It totally just starts in educating yourself on what that is. Specifically, nutrition is a great place to start. Now, you're feeding a family. You're a mom. You got a couple of kids, or a dad with 3 kids to feed. Yeah, dude, that's really, really, really hard. I imagine, and I do not have children, so I'm not even trying to advise somebody on that situation. However, I imagine it would start along the same path. What is something quick I can make the kids after I'm tired, getting home from work, and they're hungry and whatever? I mean, there has to be a way. There has to be something that can be, quick and, that they'll like. However, if they're used to eating burgers every night from In-N-Out, or which I love In-N-Out, or whatever, White Castle if you're on the East Coast, you got to break them of that habit, man. They'll eat whatever you give them, and if they won't, they'll go hungry. And that's how it used to be, man. You clear your plate or you go to bed hungry. Pretty simple. They're not going to starve to death, I promise. You're going to say something, Glenn? Sorry.
I forgot.
No worries. And the other thing, there was another. We actually mentioned this not too long ago, and actually Joe brought it up not too long ago about it was about smoking cigarettes. And essentially, what I wanted to say is along these lines is we need to change the way we think about being fat. And the cigarette analogy that he had mentioned was that in Canada, their mentality is very, very different for how your fellow countrymen takes care of themselves with their social medicine and their countrywide, and I don't mean to single out Canada because they're not the only one, but because in America is heading this direction too, with these socially funded by our taxes, free medical insurance and medical care and stuff like that. When somebody is unhealthy, like if you're a smoker and people around you are watching you smoke and literally mess yourself up, society starts to look at it like, gee, thanks. I'm going to pay taxes. They're going to make you feel. They're going to have to provide medicine and care for you to make you feel better and take care of you, make you live longer because you're doing that to yourself. If society restructured itself here like that, and people started thinking about, man, maybe I should take better care of myself because if I'm on the free Medicare here or whatever the situation is as we begin rolling out more social medicine and stuff like that, me not taking care of myself is costing all the other people around me money. Now, maybe you don't care, but people might start caring about that down the road.
Yeah, but we're a welfare country.
And we're
For
also,
now,
we're
but we
also,
are changing, man. We are changing quickly too. There are a lot of things changing in this country that have been there for hundreds of years, and they're all of a sudden we're letting go of them.
Yeah, but we're a me culture. And so
Agreed.
changing that mentality is a way bigger problem.
But if there's one thing people hate, no matter how much me they are, because it does directly affect me, is how much you pay in taxes. And when people make the connection that, hey, that unhealthy person over there, me, am paying more taxes, and you know it's only a matter of time before the government officials are talking about a tax increase because people like that won't take care of themselves.
And very much like the cigarette analogy, with the me culture, people don't want to be exposed to the cigarette smoke. So in this state of California, you can't smoke within like 50 feet of any doorway. So it's like you're pretty much limited to like a little corner off
Your
the
home.
beaten path.
Shunned.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're shunned.
So, people
Hide
do.
under the bridge with your cigarettes.
Yeah, and people will like publicly like walk by in disgust
Ugh,
because
why are you
someone's
killing me?
smoking a cigarette. Yeah, so I think what Ben is getting at is very valid. The me mentality will roll into why am I paying to clean up your mess, and the public shaming will come, and maybe the sugar will become the new sin tax.
Sugar's the new tobacco. I like it. I could get
I
on
think
board with that.
It's been that way for a while.
Well, let's see. It might get worse the more we keep it. The more if we have a president that keeps, or a government that keeps pushing out social medicine and the people taking care of the people themselves with their own medical care and stuff like that, we may start changing the way we think about that and pushing other people. Hey, man, why don't you go work out or something, dude? You're messing us up here, and I'm doing the same myself.
Incentivize health.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cole.
Incentivizing health, yes, I think that would all good there. But I don't know, if you walk up to somebody and give them a hard time about their weight,
Yeah, see,
you are doing
you're right.
more damage than help.
You're absolutely right.
Because
Yeah, mentally.
But so I guess what I was trying to say with that is if everyone thought about that about others, they would internalize that at some point. So they would start thinking, damn, I'm costing hella people money by me not taking care of myself. And that asshole over there is costing me money by not taking care of himself. I don't want to be like that asshole. I'm going to change how I am,
guilt mentality rather
There you
than,
go. Rather than
shame, guilt.
I would never promote going up and being mean to somebody for something like that. That's not that. But I was hoping they would internalize it into guilt, and that will motivate us to take care of ourselves better.
Yeah, I wasn't advocating for people to publicly shame.
No, that's
People.
messed up. That's not going to help. That's not going to help at all. You're right.
For all of the listeners, I have a face and a waistline for radio.
Yeah. Not to be heard, not seen.
Yes.
Nice. I like it. And the last thing I wanted to suggest is something I do, which I've actually mentioned to quite a few people, my friends or coworkers or whatever, and because it's met with kind of a bit of surprise often, I'm like, well, hell, maybe I'll throw this out there too. I suggest meeting with your doctor, first of all, discussing a plan, see how, see what he or she can suggest to you as far as, giving you a healthier lifestyle if you worry about being obese, or actually, even if you're not, you should be meeting with your doctor anyway. But one of the things that I do that I started doing a couple years ago that I think I've really enjoyed having the information. I go every 6 months to the doctor and I get blood work done. I have in the check boxes of that little sheet that you take to the place to get your blood work done, or there, whatever, at the hospital or wherever you are. Check vitamins, mineral levels, cholesterol levels, everything. Just, you can even throw STDs in there too if you're concerned with, you want a regular HIV check or whatever.
You want them to throw STDs in there?
Go ahead and throw some in the needle when you go. Yeah, just go ahead and mix that in there. No, I mean, but if you want, you can.
I was looking for a boring holiday. Spruce it up a bit.
About a little clap with your turkey. No, that's terrible. Anyway.
Don't kiss me, Grandma. I got gonorrhea.
Got to flare up.
That's terrible. That's ugly, you guys. Poor grandma. And anyway, go in every 6 months. Try to establish a baseline. Maybe go in every year. It doesn't matter. But what this helps you do, and the first thing I've learned is obviously if you got some any red flag areas, like maybe you got really high blood pressure or cholesterol or whatever, you should know about that, and you should be doing something to change it. High cholesterol, eat more nuts, eat less fried food, whatever. No, God, you guys suck.
That can't go by.
I know. It's like fart jokes, man. You're like, you farted, I gotta laugh.
Can't let that slide.
The other thing, too, is checking your vitamin levels. Like the last one I did, I discovered I'm vitamin D deficient. I don't know how that happened, but nevertheless, it's...
And D is for...
So I start taking a supplement for it. Maybe I can raise that against you guys, man. We'll try to be serious here. Anyway, the idea is to let you know what you don't know. And then as you slowly make changes, every 6 months you go in and have this done, or every year you go in and have this done, you make these changes, you get retested again, have all this blood work, this panel of blood work done again. Now you know if you actually made a change that helped you and made it more, fix the situation. And if nothing else, to try something else.
So you're saying you want people to be personally responsible? Is that what you're getting at here?
Maintain their own health.
I guess the government could push out a new law that forces you to go do it. So now the blood
It would
banks are
pass
gonna
in California.
Yeah, and I'm sure the blood banks would all lobby for it because they'd be like, hell yeah,
Right.
Like that day that I don't know about other states, but in California it's required by law to have car insurance. And I've thought about that a million times as you pay more and more for car insurance. And I thought, dude, the CEO of like AAA or something must have freaking jizzed in his pants the day California passed a law that said every California has to have car insurance. I mean, can you imagine that? That's like the golden ticket there, man. There's an instant billionaire.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And also, if you're getting into changing your lifestyle and are looking for essentially free advice, maybe you don't have health care or access to your doctor. If you can find a local health food store or a nutrition shop, oftentimes these establishments will give you free nutritional advice. They'll lay out a menu or a meal plan for you, and
which is really cool.
Yeah, and tell you which are the healthier alternatives and which are a sham.
Yep.
So you're not buying like the NutraSweet drinks, you're getting actual water or kombucha or something along those lines.
I think in that thing too is that it goes back to advertising, because everything that says diet on it is the worst option possible.
I was just about to mention that.
Never. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anything that says diet.
Aspartame. That's
Aspartame.
my favorite.
NutraSweet. Any of those fake sugars are horrible. Don't eat them.
They're so toxic.
Yep.
Equal, all that stuff.
Yeah. Equal. There you go. Equal. It's another one. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I guess on that note, we're out here, and thank you guys for listening, and take care of yourselves. Until next time. Show notes and other info can be found at our website, greatdistraction.com. The Great Distraction is listed in iTunes, and we greatly appreciate it when our listeners take the time to look us up and leave us a 5-star rating and review. That helps our show grow and motivates us to continue producing content. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so using the email address, greatdistractionpodcast@gmail.com, or via our website. We're always interested in hearing any thoughts, comments, or questions from our listeners. Keeping up on the latest from us can be done in several different ways. You can add us to your favorite RSS feed tracker. The link is available on our website or in iTunes. Or you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Great Distraction, one word, no space. As always, thank you for listening, and thank you for all the support.